Concentrate, Aled.
So, welcome back to a new season of Inferno TV. We'll be here again, I guess, weekly. I don't know.
Yes.
Generally,
John will be here weekly.
John will be here weekly no matter what. Yeah, and
Probably
we'll be
on
here
my own
occasionally.
if I'm
You're,
lucky.
you're the constant.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, Aled.
John
Yeah.
is the constant. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
who wants to kick us off?
Why don't we kick off with pre-season?
Well, yeah, pre-season. So we've just seen the last of the 4 pre-season games. Against Coventry Blaze and the Giants. I guess 2 wins, 2 losses. Winning home, losing away. Any thoughts?
Oh, I think if we go to the first game and have a quick chat about the first
Well,
game.
you saw the first 2, didn't you? You went to the first one.
Yes.
Watched the webcast for the second one.
Yeah, I've seen all the games.
So you've seen them all.
theoretically,
Whereas
yeah.
I've only seen 2 of them. So
The Coventry game, first one. Considering how little time the guys had had together, I thought they looked pretty good. There was a few players not playing.
How long had they had together? They arrived on pretty much the Sunday or the Monday.
I think they'd had 2 smallish sessions together, and then into the game basically.
And Coventry had been together a little bit longer. Is that right? I understood it.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the guys look good from the outset. They look pretty physical. They were obviously up for it. There was obviously Marsh and Lord weren't playing. Culligan took a bit of a check in the first period and sat up the rest of the game, and we lost Hudson during the game as well. But despite that, and going behind a bit, the guys fought hard all game and were right back in it. Could easily have won it really. I have to say that Stewart stood on his head for them in the goal. And I don't think we really identified areas where we could beat him. I think he's probably easier to beat on the big ice, to be honest, than the small ice.
It's quite funny because the webcast. I saw the webcast. The commentators on the webcast were quite scathing about Stewart that game. They really had a pop at him. They were basically 5-hole and just being far too aggressive coming out of the crease.
He does come out too far. He's a little bit slow post to post. He comes out too far, and he's not very good up and down. Also a little bit weak around the shoulders.
putting the knife in early there.
Well, when you're that big and you're a netminder, it's always going to be more difficult for you. I'm not suggesting for a second he's not athletic, because he moves around very well for a guy of that size. But obviously, being that size and being that heavy, because he's a guy who looks like a power forward or a big D man. It's always going to be a bit more tricky for you. But I thought given that, he performed better than I was expecting, really.
He kept them in the game for the first half of the return fixture, didn't he? On Wednesday night, for the first half, and then obviously, well, in fact, for two periods, rather than the first half. Especially, I mean, the first period. I know we'll get on the game in more detail, but if we talk about that goalie,
I would agree. I think he did well for them in patches. I'm not sure they necessarily did as well for him as well in front some of the time. So you certainly couldn't blame him for everything, because not all the goals were scored because of incredible skill. Some of them were scored because of bad defending and the gaps being too big. But if you can move him around and you can pass quickly, you're going to score past him. I think that's effectively what you can see.
well, before this turns into a Coventry Blaze show, rather than a Devils one, that's my fault for asking a subsidiary question. But Belfast then, the second away game, you saw the webcast for that.
Yeah. Now, Belfast were light in that game because they still had men waiting to come in.
Well, they were in the second game as well, weren't they?
They were very light in the second game, in fairness to them. I thought they played well, considering how light they were. Obviously, they're substantially the same team as last year.
Well, they kept the core, didn't they? They really did. They kept the core of the guys who I think won them the season, really.
They did. And I think the guys that they brought in, initially I had concerns about the balance of the way they looked. But the guys that they brought in are real quality. And I have no doubt that team is going to be very, very strong once again. Obviously, they beat us over there, but there was a very questionable goal given. In fact, there wasn't much doubt that there wasn't really a goal, but it doesn't really matter. It's pre-season, and it's all about seeing how the guys go. And I thought that our guys still performed well.
Pre-season for the referees as well, so perhaps that'll be a learning experience.
I hope so.
Although it wasn't, because the night after, the same referee gave another goal that wasn't
nowhere near. Obviously, we've got this rule now where if the net gets knocked off, but the puck goes in, and the referee feels that it should be a goal because maybe it was deliberately knocked off or whatever. Then he gives it.
Yeah.
I like that rule. I think
I
that's
do.
a good idea.
Because it's one of the most frustrating things that I've seen in hockey for a long time. Is netminders deliberately kick the net off when the puck looks very likely to go in, or a D-man knocks it off.
We saw Griffin try it last night. They were about to concede, and he just knocked the goal off the moorings and went, "Oh no!"
Yeah.
You know, so
Just like that.
Yeah, it really was. Oh,
Yeah.
no, what have I done? Butterfingers. You know, and it was intentional, and it was obviously intentional. You know.
I think as we go into the season, we'll certainly see the officials. They'll get used to those rules. I think it's difficult. The same as it's difficult to judge players just off pre-season. They'll get used to the rules, and I think the icing rule, I haven't really got an issue with that either. I think that speeds the game a bit. I thought Dean really showed last night how you can let the game flow but stay within the rules, which I appreciated.
As he usually does.
Yeah, he does. I would say, very briefly, touching on Blaze, what I would say about them is they are a big step up from last year's team. Last year's team, they had some very lazy players. They had some overweight players. I think they said they were fat more than once last season.
Yep.
I thought they disrespected Soderstrom and they disrespected Lefebvre, to some extent, in my opinion, because...
Well, said players are no longer with them, are they?
No, I'm glad they're not either. They didn't deserve to be signed again. Guys like Tanaka, who worked their socks off every night for them.
Yeah.
I'm glad that he's back.
I thought they were improved as well, but which is an odd thing to say because actually that was one of the most the second return fixture at home. That's one of the most dominant Devils performances I've ever seen against the Blaze. So it's a strange thing to say, but I did feel that they were improved on last year.
Apart from that 10
passage of play, they were obviously, but that was a total implosion.
Yeah,
they were sort of, the passing that was going on from some of the defensemen was it's not the kind of passing you would imagine they would try in a competitive game, I would think. But aside from that, where I think it was more the Devils' own doing, some really good finishing from the Blaze. No doubt about that. There was really,
I thought they
really
looked more like Hull than they have previously,
Yeah,
personally.
yeah.
And that's not just because Tendler's playing there. I thought that's the way they played the game.
Yeah.
They played it on the break. They had that period which didn't work for them, and there was a few reasons why that wasn't working. And I'm sure that they'll go in, look at that, and tighten up the D a bit, and try and get there. It's pre-season. You learn by your mistakes in pre-season.
Yeah, but just finally on commentary with Tendler, I think obviously replacing Jinan from last year. I think that's probably as close as they're gonna get, really, because both of them, for all their points, were really, really key players defensively as well. They both work really hard without the puck. So they've gone a long way to replace him there. I think he's high class Tendler. He had a great goal against us.
You know that when Tendler's 1-on-1, he's going to beat most of the netminders in the league, and he has pace. He has a decent sized body. He's I think that he could have a very good season there. I think one of the key things for the Devils last night was that they shut down. Is it O'Mara?
Yeah.
His name?
Yeah. Well, he's the big player, isn't he? In more ways than one.
Yeah, he's a big playmaker. He's an excellent skater. He's good off both feet. He's got great hands, and he creates a lot for them. Last night, Devils were much better at containing him, I thought.
So what would you say over the particularly, I suppose, if we're looking at the latter two games there, because the team has started to develop a bit more, what would you say, if you had to sort of pick out 2 or 3 key differences from the Devils side so far, what we've seen in pre-season to what we've seen not just last year but to really the last 3 or 4 years, what would you say would be the key overall differences so far?
The level of intensity would be one of the biggest key differences for me.
The passing has been superb. Last night the passing was immense. It was all tape to tape,
Well,
and it was all slick.
The
passing.
passing's one of mine because we all looked at the team before they got here. So it's a big team that we hope is going to physically dominate teams, and so far on the basis of the teams that we've seen the Devils play against, I think that will be the case. And obviously there's been the situation against Belfast over the last few years where Keith has come in and run the show in every game. I don't see. Yes, it's saying good point, Alid. Well made. I don't see that being the case this year. I think that was clear in both the Belfast games that there's so much toughness within the Devils team this year. But so that's taken care of. And we thought that would be taken care of. But the passing, that is a surprise to me. And it's so much better to watch, isn't it? Because the game just flows. Because people pass in front of the man, and there's so much more pace to it. And it looks like a hockey game rather than some guys just sort of messing around in the neutral zone for 50 minutes.
I mean, just touching back to toughness, we've always talked about having team toughness with the Devils. And we haven't had it for the last few seasons. We've had one or two guys who might do something. This year, I think they've got the team toughness right. Everyone seems to be prepared to step up. Even like Walton last night wasn't being bullied off the puck, happy to stand almost in the crease, and take the licks. And he's a little guy.
But I mean, you looked at the team before, and because it's little known perhaps about one or two of the players, and you thought, is the balance going to be slightly too far the one, going the other way almost? But when you look at guys like Clarkson and Mitchen and the way that they puck handle, the way that they've got the hockey sense they've got as well, the way they can keep the puck in the zone, and the way I was really impressed with both of those players, especially against Coventry, the timing of the intervention in the game. Yes. When we went 4-1 down, it was those two that did something around the net to get things going. It was Clarkson that was putting in clean hits. How often have we heard that from a Devils enforcer over the last few years? Really, that they've actually gone and done the right thing and not got called on it. Very, very impressed with those two.
Have we labelled him an enforcer wrongly? Because it seems to me he wants to play hockey. He's here to play.
Oh, yeah.
He's here to play hockey. He didn't seem to be particularly going for enforcing. He was just putting in clean hits.
I don't think he is an enforcer.
No, neither do I.
Well, okay, it might be the wrong word, but he's the biggest guy on the team, probably the toughest guy on the team. When he does go, that's that recurring text thing. That's the same one. Probably that and I think just his presence is a big factor, as well, because there's obviously a lot of guys who are game on the team, but he can obviously play hockey, but. We did miss having that genuine, super sort of heavyweight sized player last year when you had the likes of Brad Plumpton having to go up against Salters and Henley in Nottingham, and it was credit to him for doing it. But the reality was we were never ever going to win that physical battle or even gain parity.
Yes.
Whereas this year having that presence makes all the difference, I think, and he can play.
Yes, and and the thing is, it's not just him, is it? No. There's another 4 players, who can step up, and by step up I mean step up properly. Like when Hendricks went with Keith, that wasn't particularly an even contest either.
No,
and
Keith looked almost, I hate to use it, he looked violated coming off the ice. The referee was sort of edging him off, and he was sort of like, "What happened? What happened?" It was crazy. Yeah,
I think it's obviously going to be surprising for teams that there are so many guys on this team who are capable of playing hockey and capable of being tough as well.
Well, I mean, you've got Josh Batch, who in Coventry has gone up against the Blazers' #1 tough guy and got a draw, I would say, in that bout there. And obviously, Batch is a tough guy.
He is.
But you wouldn't say he's our #1, enforcing player. But he does look more physical this year as well, and perhaps that's the effect of the whole team and the intensity. You said it's the intensity, but. Yesterday they played 60 minutes, didn't they? Even though they'd sort of had that big comeback. We've seen it before. Devil sides come back and show emotion and come back, and then the foot goes off the gas again. But they kept going right away in a pre-season game. So you hope that'll be the same.
I would call that the Lord factor, because that's the way that Lord plays ice hockey. And I think what we'll see this year is that the guys will play the Lord way, and we'll see
the way of the Lord.
Yeah, the way of the Lord, if you like. But we'll see a lot of drive in the net. We'll see a lot of controlled aggression. We'll see a lot of fighting for it. Because one thing you've got to say about Lord last year is, despite some pretty abysmal performances in some of the games last year as an overall thing,
right?
Lord,
I thought you were going to be a real.
No, that was heading nasty. Yeah.
No, that Lord is one of those, like Morissette last year, who worked his socks off every night. Unfortunately, the night that he caught the Caps player. That was just one of those nights where he was working his socks off and probably was in a position he shouldn't have been in, to be honest. But he was doing what he always does. He's a real battler. I think what we've got this year, though, is we've got an awful lot of other guys who are very capable of playing in the same way, skillfully, very quickly, and are capable of scoring as well. An awful lot of them, including the D-men. So
has he built a team in his own likeness, effectively? As we used to talk about G building that, didn't we? He built a team of gritty sort of,
I thought you meant of really friendly, nice blokes in.
Yeah,
So
really friendly.
I
nice
thought that's what
people.
you were getting at.
Yeah.
I think to some extent Lord has. I think he's looked for. I think what he's talked to all his contacts and people, and he's looked for people who are similar to him, guys, because they've all come in fit.
Yeah.
When was the last time you can remember saying that?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've all come in fit and sharp.
Is that a segue onto
Well,
Steelers' new signing? Or, no.
No.
Mean.
There's been no disrespect, and you've got to say that even a guy like Clarkson, who hardly iced last season, which I think some people forget that Clarkson hardly iced last season.
He played about 12 games last
Yeah,
season.
so he's come in ring rusty, but physically very fit.
Ring rusty.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I would say he's a bit ring rusty.
Boxing terminology.
You get in a ring as a boxer and you haven't boxed for a while, and you don't tend to be as sharp as you will,
Yeah, no,
but you could be very
You
fit.
know all about that, Skip.
So
Oh yeah, of course.
With your glittering boxing career.
So Doug's come in, and he hasn't had a lot of games last year, and to be fair, in a few recent seasons he hasn't really had that many games, but he's very, very fit, and he's obviously keen, and he seems to be progressing very fast. Like, I don't know how much more he's got under the hood than we've seen so far, but if there's much more to come out, then I think we probably we could have a real find on our hands.
Well,
and I like the fact that people in other clubs have been saying derogatory things about him. I think I hope that motivates Doug.
About a third of the way.
Let
through
me
the
at
first,
him.
About a third of the way through the first pre-season game, the Coventry fans were like, "Oh, gone by Christmas, he's rubbish," and it was like, "Really, guys?" You know?
What does he bring to the game and stuff like that? Absolutely. Besides the fact it's very difficult to judge in pre-season anyway, as you said, people massively celebrated the Belfast win, and rightly so in some ways. But there was hardly any of them on the ice, and they did ice their backup for 2 periods.
Well, I was going to say, before we move on, what would you read into that Belfast win? I mean, it's better than losing. But,
well, you can only beat what's in front of you.
They took Murphy out after the first because he took a knock, didn't he, or something? So it was the backup in, and that's when the comeback began.
They scored too many goals for me.
I'm not reading a lot into that game. We didn't see Belfast, the team. We saw elements of Belfast with a backup netminder.
Yeah, they showed elements of brilliance
but
in
they
that game.
chose to play the backup netminder. They didn't have to, and they chose to turn up without enough players. They could have brought. I'm sure they could have got some of those guys in sooner.
They probably could have got some replacements in like we did.
I don't think. I mean, I do think the physicality from the Devils, rather than worrying about the result too much, was an important thing over the 2 games because of the battering we've taken from them for 3 years, and also, if I can remember what I was about to say, I can't remember. It'll come back to me in a second, though, John. I promise it will.
Well, do you want to keep talking until it comes back to you, or do you want to?
No, that doesn't work for me. That doesn't work for me. I'll just interrupt one of you.
Good.
Yeah. So I think we probably covered off a lot of what.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it. No, I've got it.
Hey,
I think a loss would have potentially been quite damaging because they've just totally run roughshod over us for years, especially in the tent actually. While a win is nice, I think losing it could have been a bit damaging actually to 10 outskaters and a backup goalie.
For the crowd that was in, I mean, it was the biggest pre-season crowd I think we've ever had.
Yeah.
It was 1,500 plus.
Yeah.
They all left going, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people will be back who maybe haven't been back before.
I mean, from a business point of view, it was a good idea, shall we say, having a back-to-back Belfast games, I think. With a little bit of feistiness thrown in because there's been a bit of needle developed over there over the last few years.
Yeah.
And a sensible business decision.
And quite a good pre-season because we played, people in our own conference.
Yeah.
So we got a good look at.
And we actually, I mean, we've got to mention this, haven't we? Is this the first year I can remember we've actually had all our players here on time?
Yeah.
Normally, aren't we waiting till the middle of October for somebody's visa to still come through or something like that?
Apparently all their accommodation was sorted and cars were sorted very quickly and the guys were all really happy and they were settled in, and that makes such a big difference. It does. You go into a new place and nothing's organised and you don't know where you're going and there's no one to welcome you and nothing's organised. You can imagine how difficult that would be. We've already got guys on this team talking about coming back for next season already. And some of the ones we're talking about are key players that I'm sure we'll be looking at bringing back next season if they continue the way they're going.
A few guys mentioned it in their interviews. We've interviewed a lot of the new players who came in for the Inferno.
You can check that out on the Inferno website. So it's archived, isn't it?
It's on the front page too.
All of the interviews.
Pretty much, yeah.
Cool. There we go.
So should
Good
we
work.
have a chat about our players?
Well, I guess we've sort of covered a
Right,
few,
so
haven't we already? But
we were going to cover it in depth.
should we try and be fairly quick
Yeah,
through this?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or should we pick, a couple of guys each we're impressed with so far?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that.
Well, or we could go in the middle way, and we could do a quick bulletin on all of,
I
on
like
most
it.
of them,
Right.
and then from then on we could do it. Because at the moment we're kind of at the stereotyping stage still, aren't we?
Alan, camera one, go.
Oh, okay. Where should we start?
Start at the back, move forward.
Start at the back and move forward. Okay. Do you want
Yeah,
to start?
I'm not reading my phone.
What is this?
The Seb from
You can only get away with this if you've got an iPad, I'm afraid.
Seb from Elite Prospects has very kindly sent in all the stats for our pre-season for us.
Oh right. Oh, fantastic.
Cheers, Seb. Thank you.
Seb.
Which we really appreciate, and I thought I could ask you a couple of questions.
Oh.
So we can get we can see.
I did see him tweet something earlier though.
Is there going to be a test? Is this a test? Is this like...
It's a little test.
Okay.
A little test for you. Who
Ooh.
do you think is our most successful duo so far on the team? Up front.
In terms of scoring.
Yes, in terms of points. Who do you think?
I would suspect it's difficult because the lines have been mix and match, haven't they? Really.
Haddad and Martin?
I would say Walton and Haddad probably.
Okay. And Aled would be right.
There we are. But I mean, yesterday was the first time they. Well, I don't know. I didn't see the away games actually, but they didn't play on the same line against Belfast.
No, it's been fairly mix and match,
Midweek.
but based on the fact that it has been mix and match, they are still considerably have considerably
sorry,
more
that was
points as a duo.
Haddad and
Walton.
That's helped out by
Great.
a hat trick, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I suppose,
Yes.
so.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. But let's talk about those two while we mention it. Again, it's very difficult so far because you've only seen a couple of games, and most of the players are sort of living up to the characterisation of that type of player.
Haddad for me, great power forward, really
Yeah.
gritty. I think he's an upgrade on power forwards we had before. And I think Walton.
Haddad's the kind of player who'll do well in this league, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Especially
He's
in
got
our
that
ring.
sort of Tyler Michelli, Max Beerbury thing going on. If you want to liken him back to what, as we always do to players who played before, hasn't he? He's got that gritty, intense.
Yeah.
You know.
But he's got the hands of as well.
He's got a lot of skill.
Yeah.
Yeah. He has.
From what I know, the team are very pleased with Haddad, and probably surprised, if anything, that he's even better than they thought he was.
Yeah.
And I would go along with that.
Yeah.
Because I saw some of his videos, and he was obviously had ability, but he's got more than just ability.
Yeah.
He knows where he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Potential captain there, possibly. Do we think?
He's been captain before, hasn't he? Captain
Been
last
team
year.
captains before.
There's quite a few guys on that team.
Yeah.
I've got
Well,
to be
that's
fair.
why they
Half the
recruited a
team
lot
could
of
be
them, isn't it?
captains, if not more than half the team.
Exactly.
So
And
we
then
like
Walton
him.
we were looking at as well.
Walton looks to me. He looks the real class,
There were
experienced
about
player. That
5 times last night where he got open with the net open in front of him and the pass was just a little bit too high, or someone got to his stick at the last second. He could have had an absolute cavalcade of goals last night.
Because we've got a few guys who've sort of played 1 or 2 years at pro after college, young guys who've got a lot of skill and everything. But Walton's sort of where perhaps that the career they'll have looked to have had in sort of 6 or 7 years' time, you might say, because he's got points in good leagues in Europe.
Yep.
And he's going to come into this league, and I think he's going to, because he's got that bit of experience. You can see the experience. I think he'll be a leader offensively.
I think so.
So
Second most points by a duo, and there's 2 duos tied for second most points.
How exciting.
And the only reason I ask you is because
Are you talking about, this includes defensemen though, does it?
let's have a look at statistics.
Oh,
yes, I have
can
the
help
stats
us
for
narrow
everyone.
it down.
great.
Cool. Well, Hudson hasn't played all the games, so I don't think it'll be him. Let's see.
They're forwards.
Lord
I'll give you a tip, they're
forwards.
Lord
forwards.
and Morissette.
Lord and Morissette are tied on second.
Martin,
The other
will be
duo,
there.
I think, will surprise you.
Uh,
They are imports.
yes. Well,
Okay.
I would have thought Martin would be there, but because he's been very impressive. But Mitchen's been involved on the ice for a few goals, hasn't he?
He has.
Oh,
These are
it wasn't
duos.
me.
We're talking about duos at the moment.
Yeah.
Successful duos together, and it's Culligan and Walton, which I think says a lot
Right.
about.
I see. I didn't
That says a
understand
lot
it,
about Culligan, I think, because Culligan hasn't had that much ice really.
So, hang on, Walton's in 2 of those
Yes,
high
he
scoring
is.
pairings.
He's
but-
actually.
Oh, that validates
Yeah.
everything I just
Yes.
said.
Exactly, yeah.
He effectively is top really, but I think it's difficult to judge because obviously Haddad is up there as well with him.
He is, yeah.
But certainly those two are class and stand out.
They played together, didn't they, against Coventry last night, or not last night when you see this, but against Coventry. That does to me look like it looked like those were the lines. Obviously, Myers is still to come in, but
that looked like a pairing.
Yeah.
The one thing I would say about Culligan is what great jets he's got on big ice. Like last night, he was outrunning everyone on the small ice. On big ice, I could see him being really dangerous, and he's also very, very skillful. He's not just fast, because we've seen guys in the past who've come into the league and they're very fast.
Yeah.
Like Mike Bayrack, who played a couple of teams, very, very fast in a straight line, couldn't turn.
Who was the guy in the? Oh no, couldn't stop, wasn't it? Luis Mendoza in Ducks. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Luis Mendoza.
Yeah. McMorrow was one of them as well. He couldn't stop.
Into the boards at the end. Great.
But
he couldn't skate like Luis Mendoza though.
No.
So is it the end of the test, or is there more?
No, well, it's gonna have if you and Alex want to carry on talking.
We're basically there. Just sort of, we decided we were going to go down the route of a quick thing on each one, and we totally went the opposite way.
And we did it.
No,
let's leave that for now. I think we could just talk a little bit about. I mean, I think it's fair to say there isn't one player who hasn't impressed or even exceeded, expectations for what we thought in the pre-season. Of course, it means very little if they turn out to be rubbish in the competitive games. But on what we've seen so far, we're confident they haven't.
Morissette.
They won't.
Now Morissette is playing more of his natural game. I think he looks a much better player than last season, and I thought he was good last season. But the goal that he scored last night, that was worthy of.
Yeah, that was worthy of a better league.
I think that was Alex words, exactly. Yes. Yeah, and it was. And I've watched it back, and it is a great backhand finish. It's a really good. And Morissette's doing an awful lot of good work again this season.
He was really good last year. He just didn't get the credit he deserved. But he was as a team guy. I know that gets banned around, but he does so much work that a lot of people wouldn't notice in the throes of a game. But yeah, and I think basically defensively, just to sum it up, we can talk about it in more detail as we go along. Because it'll be interesting to see how these guys react, especially on Sunday. I think against Sheffield, that big cauldron environment.
That's a proper
but
test.
It does look to be a couple of nasty chaps back there, and that's exactly what we want, isn't it? Especially with Marsh to come back in.
We've had people missing off. We've had an injury. We've had Marsh out as well. So I don't think the D's functioned as we're going to see it function in the season.
No, Marsh will be a huge influence.
On paper, there's a great balance between playmaking and grit.
Maybe he's left bounds a little exposed in the pre-season.
Oh well, the Blaze games where they scored those 4 goals. I mean, it was. I mean, the one was a deflection, which it was just bad luck. Yeah. But the others were a total breakdown.
Well, in the first game, if you watch the replay back, most of them are defensive mistakes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and it's fairly obvious, why the goals were scored or not. So I know when the team reviewed it, they didn't really see it as a major issue. They saw it as an understanding of what you correct.
Yeah, I mean, some of the plays that led to goals on Wednesday were just passes you just, as a professional in a competitive game, you just wouldn't try and make.
Exhibition hockey.
Yeah, exactly.
We attempted some ridiculous exhibition hockey.
And I suppose you've got to say as well is that, it's every new goalie that goes to a new team. It's going to take a few games for the defenseman to get used to the goalie and vice versa, isn't it? Because it doesn't matter the quality of the goaltender. It's a difference. Everyone's got their quirks, their different styles of play, and that's something that people can get used to.
Exactly. Bounds looks an excellent netminder to me. I would very difficult to judge between him and Kozowski we had last season, because our D was quite poor last season. But Bounds looks like an import goalie to me, the way he plays.
Yeah.
His rebound control is pretty good. His glove is very good. They haven't really seen any major weaknesses with him yet.
And I mean, again, it's difficult. It's pre-season, isn't it? But obviously, there were in both the home games there was sort of glut of goals that went in sort of in a row. But so to compose after that and then shut the game out as he did.
Yeah,
in
but
both
last
games.
night to pull it back from 4-1 down.
Yeah, and then not concede after the rush of goals. That's encouraging mentally, I think.
Yeah, they weren't his fault. And and in fairness to the guys, after they'd had that sort of period where they were asleep for 8 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever it was, and had all decided that they were scoring or scorers, and attempting to poke check one of the best forwards in the league on the halfway line when you're facing the wrong way, you're always going to run a massive risk. And it doesn't matter if you're Hendricks and you're a great D-man, because if you're trying to do that and you miss, and he did get him once doing it, but if you miss, and it's a guy like Tendler who's going to burn most people for pace anyway, you're not going to stop him. And how many one-on-ones practicing has he had with Ben? So
Well,
that
he
he had
spent 2 years shooting on bounds in practice, hasn't
Yes.
he? So,
he knew exactly where he was going. So from that point, that's the thing with pre-season. It does make it difficult to judge because I'm sure we won't be playing like that going forward. I don't think we'll like against Sheffield and Hull. I can't imagine we're going to have this period where suddenly we're all up the one end attacking. We've got one D-man back and he's on the halfway line. Are we?
Hopefully not. We would hope not. It's exciting though.
Have I made it?
It's exciting.
It was too exciting for my liking. Like Mark Smith had scored a great goal in front, but but there was nobody there.
Yeah.
Because he should have been flat really where he was standing, and there was no one there because the too many men are out of position. I'm sure Lord, I don't know what he said to him anyway because they were all pretty fired up afterwards. But I'm sure when they're reviewing the video of that, they'll be, when it comes down to the games, boys, we can't do that. That won't be the way we play. One guy we haven't mentioned, who I think we should, is CJ.
Yeah, outstanding.
He's
a lot of questions from Belfast fans about CJ. Actually, they've been a few on Twitter, a few on the Inferno. Who is this guy? Where's he come from? It's like
he's made another step. I think he's put on a bit of bulk over the summer. You could see he's a bit more muscular, but he's just as fast. And if anything, he's playing better. I would have said. I've been very impressed with him so far. Like losing Ben Davis for any team to lose, a guy like Ben Davis is always going to be a bit of a worry. But CJ's really stepped up into that space. And he's shown us what he's got. Piggott obviously. Luke continues to play the way he always does. He's very intense. He's very physical. He adds energy. We're still seeing that. Matthew Myers. I think we'll see more from Matthew, obviously, as the season progresses. He's obviously enjoying it with the new group of guys. Batchy, as we've said, I think Batchy's going to grow this season. The D-men that he's going to be playing with are a different group. Instead of having one superb D-man in Marsh, who we've still got, we've got a group now of very, very good D-men. Like he can learn from Hendricks and Hudson, and and Hotham, obviously, who's probably our skilled D-man, if you know what I mean. He's a different type of D-man. He looks like a different player to the others. Because he said himself he wasn't as physical, he didn't think, but I thought he was pretty. I think he has been trying to be physical, but certainly if you watch him skate along the boards, when you get a chance to actually watch him skate, he's got something.
Exactly. Shall we quickly have a chat about the upcoming games?
I told you they would take ages to get through all that, didn't I?
It really did. I was quite surprised. Yeah, I thought we'd blow through that in about 5 minutes, and it's been ages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got Hull Saturday and Sheffield on Sunday with the added excitement. Dave Sims will probably be in the building. Oh, sorry, Dave.
You've made a mistake. You're not listening to Andrew Lord, who said it's one game at a time this year.
Exactly.
So, John, we're going to go back.
I was just
and we're going to
mentioning
talk about Hull.
Dave Sims.
Dave Sims is not going to be there on
One
Saturday.
game at a time. So
Sunday.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
So
you're talking about the
Hull
wrong game.
Stingrays on Saturday. Obviously, there's been a big change there in the off-season. Departure of coach, departure of netminder. A lot of the quality they had last year seems to have disappeared over the pond.
Well, they got Pacho was one of their standout players last year, and he's going to be player coach, isn't he? And he's almost a point a game D-man, and he was a class act, so that's good. They've obviously lost Bounds, so they've got to have an import in there now as well. Then they've lost Dool, who is sort of back and forth to Hull, isn't he? And he is a genuinely class player, so that's a loss for them. Gomeniuk's come in, who's also back and forth with Hull quite a bit. I wouldn't put him in the same category as quality as Curtis Dool, though. I had a look for the team earlier and the stats and everything, and I've heard Hull people have been saying they're sort of probably the team that's least moved forward.
Yeah.
From a lot of the sides, because obviously a lot of the Scottish sides are way more competitive now, and I wanted to sort of find something in there that said, oh, actually people are writing these off a bit, but just looking through the stats, and I hope they prove me wrong on this. There isn't a lot in the stats which says that this is a team that should really cause us problems.
Their pre-season may be a little bit worrying. I mean, they played the Peterborough something or other.
Phantoms
twice.
Yeah.
7 was it the first game? 7 something. They lost.
And I think that's probably the biggest worry, and they lost by a margin.
Yeah. They won 4-0 the second game.
Yeah. They've kept some good players, like Pash, obviously. Carl Lauzon's back. He was a good player for them. Obviously, Doucette and Tendler. I mean, they just haven't replaced those two.
No, they just haven't
replaced them.
They've got the other Tanaka, who will be, he'll be another quality player like his brother. But at the moment, they look to be the weakest side in the league, and I hope that they can, that they can step up.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting. But I do hope we don't look past that game, because obviously the Sheffield game is a big one. But looking at our side physically, even if we're struggling to get the hockey going, we shouldn't lose that game.
No,
we've seen Hull come in and play a very defensive style and catch us on the break. They've done that for years, haven't they? They've strangled the life out of the game.
But they've got a new coach now.
They've got a new coach. They've got a whole lot of new staff. They might try the same thing. I don't know if they've got the firepower this year.
I don't know if they got the man up front that they could rely on, like they had 2 men last season who could work with that system beautifully. I don't know if they'll have that this year.
Yeah. I mean, Matty Davis, class act. He's captain, isn't he, this year? Class player.
There are some good players.
He's getting import level points, isn't he? Very creative player, but. Yeah,
he's going to be up against it.
If we don't win that home game, especially first competitive league night, I think it'll be it wouldn't be ideal, would it?
Don't say that. I'm away. I'm going to miss it. So don't say things like that.
Yeah. I don't think I'm there.
No, I think Lord will have told the guys that it's full on. Every game's approached the same way.
And really, I mean, they play 2 games a week every week. It's normally an away game. There's normally travel involved. If anything, they should be more intense and more more energy, high energy levels
now, going in
with 2 home games. So
all right, so two home games. Second home game on Sunday.
The old enemy,
Steelers, the old enemy, House of Tin, on the road. Thoughts?
Well. You look at their team on paper, and at various points during the time it was being built, I thought it looked really hideously unbalanced, and it didn't complete. And then it sort of built along, and G brought in some other bodies, and he sort of glued it all together. And in the end, I thought it looked like a pretty good team, personally. Some of the elements who were there from last season who did well. Obviously, they've kept on the Doilo, so they've got a good netminder there. They know what they've got.
Retained their core of Brits, and their core of Brits is strong.
They've got a good group of Brits, I think.
Sort of annoying.
And they've retained. Well, let's go. If we go from the back, obviously Doyle there. Most of the time, he's pretty good, isn't he? And he'll probably start a bit better than he did last year, having been here a year. Defence, they've kept the core of it. Obviously, Cone and Baldwin are. Should be class players for them, shouldn't they? With the pedigree they've got, and you would hope from their point of view they'll be more consistent than they were last year, I think. And then obviously Mark Thomas back as well there, and then Rod Sarich coming back in. What do you think of that? A year away from hockey.
I'm not sure, because I thought last time I saw Rod play that he was already below elite league pace. Not personally, that was the way I felt. I didn't think that he was. What we know with Rod is he's got a great brain, and he'll control elements of the game very well for them. Yeah, I've just
without Legui as well, they'll need him potentially on the power play.
I hope that he's come back in and he's in great shape, and I hope it goes well for him, because a great player, you don't want to see him come in and have a bad season. Yeah. Personally, I don't. I never enjoy that.
Just on that note, it's very disappointing. The only downside to Clarkson signing for us this year is that we can't really sing the old "Where's your brother? Where's your brother?" playing in the NHL chant anymore next time.
No,
Sarich comes down. Yeah. What a shame. No. Unfortunate. Well, if we do sing it,
Fortunately, no one's got a girl's name, so we can still sing that when we want. No.
But I mean, yeah. So, and obviously with Sheffield, we see a lot of old Devils come back, really, don't we?
Yeah. Well, it'd be nice to see Phil. It's always nice to see Illy in the building. We wish all the best to John Phillips, who obviously hasn't been well.
He won't feature Sunday, will he?
No, so speedy recovery to Jono. Some of the new guys, obviously, got a slightly controversial guy in Mosyenko.
Go on in. Tell us about that, John.
Well, I think it's been...
Not that our opinion matters, but we may as well
it's widely publicised what he was involved with, what happened. Personally, I feel the ban, compared to other sports, is probably too lenient. But
if you did that in football or cricket,
you'd be looking at years.
Exactly, yeah.
But it is what it is. That's what the league have decided. He looks a very good player, and hopefully we'll see him playing at some point, and we'll see what quality he's got.
As someone hilariously said of the Inferno, he's quite happy because he had 500 quid on it. So he had 6 games or less. And
Well, I hope he's learned a lesson from it. I'm sure he has. Because apart from that one blemish on his career, he seems to be a genuine good guy. So I hope they've got Matthew Roy.
Well, I'm going to call it because but it's spelled Matthew. You know, it's
It is,
French,
yeah.
isn't it? So it's got to be Wa, isn't it?
Matthew,
Somebody let us
Matthew
know.
Roy, Ra? Yeah, who knows? Yeah.
Anyway,
he looks
they,
good. Colton Fretta looks like a good signing as well.
There's 2 players there, and there's 1 or 2 others as well who they're genuine high caliber players in our league.
It's going to be a proper test for us. That is.
So
I'm not suggesting that Hull won't be a proper test for us. I think it will be, but Sheffield take that to another level again. Certainly on paper, they didn't go too well against Coventry recently, but it's pre-season, and I think that was probably a blip.
And we're going to see a fairly horrific twosome of Deeds and Jada Tulip as well, which is going to be, from the wind-up merchants that they were when they played for us. Having both of them on the ice for sure.
It'd be interesting to see if they get away with more in a Steelers uniform than they did in a Devils uniform.
I know Jay is really looking forward to being in on the weekend. He's really pumped up about it. He loved being in Cardiff. He loved playing here. For Deeds, I think everyone knows what they get with Deeds. Deeds has got a great big heart. He's a lovely guy off the ice, but on the ice, he's one of the craziest guys you'll ever meet. The Deeds will fight anybody. Even though quite often he will lose, but he will. He'll do the job for his team.
But as a wind-up merchant, he's superb.
He'll do things on the ice he shouldn't be doing as well. He's a great agitator. I think it'll be interesting because apparently he's a completely changed man. I don't believe that for a second.
Is this from what Dave Sims was saying on
it happens automatically. As soon as you put the
orange and teal on, you're a different person.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if Deeds has changed majorly. But certainly I'd like to wish him luck. Apart from against us,
you wouldn't want a blue too, if that's who he
is.
That's who he is.
That's the guy he is. Yeah. An absolutely great guy. Great with fans from other teams. I remember there was some Nottingham fans down the season he was with us. They shouted loads of abuse at him through the game, called him all sorts of names. They were talking, but as Deeds was going off the ice, Deeds was shouting up, they were shouting down. I think they went out in town, and Deeds was there at the same place as them, and they had a great evening together. Yeah. And that's the kind of guy Deeds is.
What was interesting last time, of course, he was when the period of time he was with the Devils, was that he was the toughest guy on the team. And he had to go up against Ben Olsen and did a good job of doing that. But again, it's the same symptoms we had last year, where we didn't have that legitimate sort of heavyweight caliber player to do that. Now the Steelers lineup, for all the skill that they appear to have and experience, they don't have an awful lot of toughness there.
No, they have Morency as well.
Well, Morency's their go-to guy for fighting, but he's not a big guy. He's a middleweight fighter. When you look at what we were able to do to Belfast and Coventry, it should be the same sort of story in our building.
Apart from Braehead, I can't. Looking around the league, there doesn't appear to be teams that are going to compete physically. No, really. If everyone's being physical, because Braehead obviously they've got a big physical team as well. I think that they'll be interesting games. I think this season.
Edinburgh,
they got some real quality there this season,
and they've got some lunatics as well. to put it bluntly.
Grimaldi got a lot of bad press, I think, with Nottingham, and he did a couple of daft things. And
he's a good player.
He is a good player.
110 penalty minutes in under 10 games.
And I wish him well.
I don't think that's a particularly bad signing for a club like Edinburgh, to be honest, because he's a good player when he's playing, and he will do something at some point in the season that might sell a few tickets.
I'm thrilled for their fans.
I reckon he's 100 seats a game. I really do.
I'm absolutely thrilled for their fans.
Just for the comedy of it.
They're finally going to go this season, and they haven't for a long time. They haven't, and they're going to see not only some guys who can really play hockey, because they tend to get some guys that can play hockey, but they're going to see some. There's going to be some real quality on the ice. There's going to be guys who are prepared to stand up, and they're going to win some games.
Yeah,
they've done well pre-season, haven't they? They've won, I think, both their pre-season games.
And I think the added grit, they'll win more at home. Yeah, they'll find it easier to win at home.
And good luck to my friend Jordan Steele for this season.
Yeah, you know Jordan.
Do you want to wish all your other friends good luck as well?
No,
in all the other teams.
We'll be here all night. Then,
with all the credits.
We won't do that.
John will say hello to everybody knows.
So, I hope everybody enjoyed.
We could have that as a feature every week. Actually, John says good luck too, and this week it is.
We could do that. Couldn't we?
That's amazing.
That would be quite
good. We'll do that.
Yeah. I hope everyone enjoyed watching. If we missed any of the players out for Cardiff, then it's not, it's nothing in particular.
It was an intentional
nothing personal at all, especially if
we didn't say much about Martin, but I think we've all been impressed with him.
Yeah, I said he was good.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
You did.
So did I. I thought he was one of the highest scorers. I mentioned
Yeah.
him.
No.
Yeah. See?
I don't think there's been nobody on the Devils team that I thought, oh, I wish they weren't playing.
Oh.
Even the lads that they brought in from Backnell Bees haven't been that bad.
No,
Oh.
the young lad, yeah.
I was impressed with them too.
So, future shows then, we're quite hopeful of getting players on, aren't
Yes.
we, I think, yeah. So,
It was mentioned in some off-ice communication we had with
they've
so
been
yeah,
very
that's
helpful, the club, so far, in setting up
have
the
indeed.
interviews, haven't they?
Yeah,
Helping with that,
yeah.
so we would hopefully that'll continue. So the games this weekend, just sort of info for people to know, Hull Stingrays at home in league action, and so that'll be a 7 p.m. start on the Saturday
Yeah.
at the Big Blue Tent, and then 6 o'clock it'll be on Sunday against Sheffield Steelers, and that is Challenge Cup action against the Steelers on Sunday. So a double whammy of excitement
and
there.
match night live for both of those.
Match night live for both. Any
And
other?
a big good luck to Callum Buglass this season at Swindon and Adam Harding. But certainly for Callum, an opportunity to really hone his game there. I'm sure Callum is going to become a Devils regular over the coming seasons. And good luck from all of us, Callum, and have a great season.
Yeah, no, that's great. And for away fans, we believe there's going to be webcasting this weekend. That's
don't
what the
know.
club said anyway. So
Possibly.
there might be a chance.
It's
for
on the
that.
website, so you'd hope so. Yeah.
Yeah,
Possibly
but not.
there'll be
But of course, you would
yeah.
want to watch MNL.
Of course.
course.
Why not?
That's right. An awful lot of texting going on there. I know because I must have sent about 150 texts in every game so far.
Well done.
And there's the occasional photo maybe goes up on Twitter, does it, through the MNL account as well of
Through
action?
the,
I think that's
Inferno
something
account, yeah.
you could probably do the Inferno account.
Yeah, we can do
a
that.
bit more of that.
Yeah.
Great. There we are.
Okay.
That was a discussion meeting there held on air. Anyway,
Yeah.
all good?
Thank you very much.
Cheers, everybody.